Hello, welcome to episode 149 of Live Drawing. And I am trying, before we dive into Undersea Hero, I'm going to finish off this sketch cover that I started noodling at just while I've been drinking coffee in the morning. It's a character called Thunderstrike, a book that I always liked as a kid. So I'm going to finish off this sketch cover before we pull out our page. I just have to do the background. And for folks that haven't seen the sponge technique, it's very simple. You just take a sponge and you load it up and dab it in there. Hey, Martha's. Yeah, I'm just going to finish this off so that I feel like I've accomplished something before I get back into the grind of working on pages. I just started this while I was, the other day while I was drinking coffee. Hope everybody's doing okay. Making a snack, that sounds nice. Brush pen. I got bad news for folks that use these Kuretake brush pens. They stopped making the bristle tips, the replacement ones. So I'm trying out some new stuff. I just ordered some off of Jet Pens, so we'll see when that arrives. We'll do like a gear review or something. Review it and let folks know what we think. Because these have been like my gold standard for years now. This is just a part of an art sponge. You can get them real cheap at even like a Michaels or whatever. They're $1 or $2. And you can cut them into little pieces. I think I bought a bag of those sponges for like $2 or $3. I think I haven't had to replace one since I bought it, which was years ago, because I just rinse them out and reuse them. But you can use all kinds of stuff for creating ink textures, and it's fun to experiment with that. My buddy Joe uses part of like a screen, like a screen from a screen door. So you can try all sorts of different mark making. Think of it almost more like print making. You can use really use anything to make marks that way. But we'll get back to work on Undersea Hero shortly as soon as this is done. I just want to finish something. I don't know. I like drawing sketch covers. I mean, I think for the most part they're becoming obsolete. I don't think they're as popular as they used to be, and I won't be surprised if they become just kind of a secondary thing out there. For a while, everybody was making them, everybody was drawing them, everybody was doing them, but the industry, especially with the collectible aspect of it, when you're manufacturing collectibles, like it's cyclical and it'll circle back, or it'll just like, because I remember when I first got into doing conventions, people were all doing sketch cards, like those were the thing for a while, and then they weren't. But maybe they'll come back. I don't know. I just happen to like drawing on them, and that's what they were made for. That's why they made blank sketch covers. I have a couple that are like kind of valuable without being drawn on, and I've debated selling them or getting rid of them or whatever. But I think I'll just end up drawing on them. Because a lot of the times they were doing variant covers for first issues with them, so there's a fair number of first appearances that have a sketch cover variant. I think one of the saddest things I could see is like a slabbed, unsketched on sketch cover, because like you can't read it and you can't sketch on it. Like you're taking away its like two purposes. Let's try to clean it up a little bit. Sometimes on my morning sketches, I stop and start, erase a lot, so there can be a lot of extra marks on the paper that don't want to get erased. We'll try. We will try. Most people try to draw characters that they think are going to sell on sketch covers. I just end up drawing characters I like. I don't think Eric Masterson ever had a. Like, I think they did like a Marvel Legends figure of him, but he never had like a resurrection of popularity because they killed him off, and he's a character that has stayed dead. Honestly, Martha's that's just kind of a thing that's always been there. I think that it's just a segment of the comic collecting market that has those urges to collect those. We'll put it that way, I suppose. I suppose that's the nicest way. There we go. Nice to just finish something off. It's just a noodled, cobbled together sketch from several cups of coffee in the morning for a couple of weeks. So it's the Donny Cates run on Thor. I know it wasn't as heralded as the Coipel years, but it's amazing the influence that Coipel has had on how Thor is drawn, and this has kind of a mix of that with a little bit of Pepe Larraz and you know. Hey Daniel, good to see you. But there's our sketch cover that we finally can say we finished something. Hey Caleb, good to see you. It's not Thor, it's Thunderstrike. So, but we'll get back to work on what we have to work on. This is that 2-page spread we've been working on. This is half of it. Of course, that got stuck to that. It's our prelim that we were penciling last week. And then here's the 2 sides that we have. There's the top. And you can see we've got our singing eel, the backup singers. There's our silhouette panel. Colonel Feathers and Janor jumping down from the submarine. We see them in the sub. We see the singing start. They jump out. And there's the duet. There's Colonel Feathers using a laser to cut into the bank vault. And then the duet continues. And then the last page we have is actually the next page, which is the heist page, which is probably the most complex page in the book. Of course, I have everything to work. What am I missing here? I'm missing comments. Hello, yes. Let me grab a circle template. I'm going to put this in here just to kind of rough it out. We need to expand it. We don't have a ton of room here. Just gives me a better shot at eyeballing it as a circle. There we go. Can't see it. Can't see the quote. What does it say? Oh, thank you, Caleb. Trying to get through it. Today's one of those grind days where I'm just feeling wore out. Other work has been a pain in the ass lately, but hey, that's everybody, right? I hope other people are having a nice week and that they have a wonderful, happy something going on. I can't see what that says either. Yeah, thankfully on like Kickstarter and stuff, they have a. I would agree. It's been that kind of thing. Thankfully, Martha's like Kickstarter has like rules and stuff to like some of their content, um, and they do review projects, so I'm sure they will keep everything as regulated as they are legally allowed to do, which they should. But yeah, it's been a tough few weeks. I don't know. Getting a haircut this weekend, so hopefully maybe that'll help. Maybe my vanity will resurface, and I'll be able to be like, "Hey, at least my hair looks nice." God, I can't. Robert says Friday the 13th this week. Yeah, I don't know why the overlay is acting screwy. Friday the 13th this week. Yeah, it could be it too, Robert. I could see that. What do I want to do? I would like to just be done with this book, and I think everyone else would be happy if I was done with this book too. Anybody reading any good comics or anything lately? I'm looking forward. I was asked yesterday which I was looking most forward to, Superman or the Fantastic Four, and I actually said Superman. And I think it's because of how much I enjoyed Peacemaker. So I'm looking forward to seeing what James Gunn does with some of the bigger DC toys. Here we go. Okay. Got a number of people in the stream, so thanks for popping in. Usually it's mostly from Facebook, but it looks like we've got some Twitch people popping in. Yeah, I've reached that point where some of my favorite art supplies are not being made, and that's a bummer. It's a bummer. I've been using mostly the same gear for the last, I would say, about 7 to 10 years, anywhere from 7 to 10 years, because because of the COVID years, I don't fully know what year it is. If I'm being entirely honest. I gotta finish where her shoulder is. I have a large space to fill in. I usually just drop the ink right on the paper and then mush it around. Honestly, I have not read a ton lately. I did start watching the TMNT cartoon from the 80s, which I hadn't seen since I was a kid. And I expected it to be horrendous, like a train wreck. And it was not a train wreck. It was actually okay. It wasn't, I'm not going to say it was the greatest thing ever. Watching the first couple episodes, um, it was definitely written for kids, but when I watched it, I didn't feel like it was insultingly stupid, which some cartoons I felt that way. Like I watched that '90s cartoon based on the Jim Lee comic Wildcats, and I found that cartoon just like incredibly stupid. Hey Robert, I actually do. One of the best resources I ever found for that was online. I found a free book of just like hairstyles for hairstylists. I sometimes am a little out of date, so what I'll do is I'll go online and just look at like some of those like top 10 hairstyles of the summer type lists, and I'll save those. And when I'm designing characters, especially if they exist in the modern day, I'll look there. A lot of the times I do use like a retro cut. This is like an asymmetrical uh, loose bob, that I thought would be good because she like her hair moves in the when she's singing, and I just thought that that would be a nice like throwback, almost like a not rockabilly, but you know. But I do use reference, when I'm especially when I'm designing. And then one of the things that I do like to do, and I've shown it on here a lot, is I will just draw heads. And I'll do different hairstyles. I'll do different expressions, different angles, and that's just one of my like almost what's the word? Uh, I can't think of it right now, um, but that's just something that I do. Like it's a thing that relaxes me a bit, and I still to this day find it ever fascinating. Like different head shapes, different jaw lines, different. I don't know. There's just something about it that I'm finding something to come back to the well to all the time. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm gonna look it up because meditation, that's the word. Martha's. Remember I told you I was researching the old cars? I found one in real life. Oh, that is cool. Yeah, that's neat. Interiors are tough too because you're drawing them in perspective. Like if you're, that's one of those things that so many people today now just trace 3D models of. Like they'll trace a shot of a car and then drop their character into it. 3D tracing is just kind of like a standard practice now for mainstream comics. I do not do it unless I'm required to. There was actually the gig for the Red Sox, which was Wally the Green Monster. They wanted the exact, for whatever reason, like in this cartoon monster book, they wanted the exact Fenway Park. So we had to trace images of Fenway Park, and like I would make it a little cartoony and then have to send it to them for approval. And then they'd be like, no, this is too exaggerated or this is too whatever. There were shots where like we were on a deadline and I would, spend time on the characterization, the letter placement, because like one of them was an adaptation of a short film that they'd done, and then the second one was original. And when I did the original one, which was released under the title Tessie, um, for the monster Tessie, um, I was finding new locations in the ballpark that I wanted to show off, and sometimes it took longer to get approval on the backgrounds than it took to draw the entire page, which was at times just frustrating. Yeah, yeah, that is cool. Old cars are neat, I mean, there's especially if you watch movies, even as late as like the early 2000s that were period pieces, like they wouldn't CG in all the cars, so you'd actually get to see real cars. I remember in the movie they did of The Shadow with Alec Baldwin, just tons and tons of vintage cars in that movie. Um, that was in the 90s. They couldn't just CG in a million cars. Dick Tracy, another movie around that time that had a ton of old cars in it. Yeah, Patrick, I saw a blip about that, like a little ad on Facebook when they're like, we've seen you watch Red Sox recaps and highlights, so we're gonna sell you Red Sox stuff. Although to be honest, especially as I've gotten older, I prefer minor league baseball. I really do. I prefer the game. I prefer the storylines. I don't know. It's just something about it that I've grown to love more. And you can also be a fan of it as like a not a high income person. Yeah, it's tough, especially if you're doing it like if you're looking at a picture. One of the things I recommend doing is getting two copies of that picture or digitally in one. Map out where your horizon line is on the picture, find your vanishing points, and then build your figures. Like do a simplified drawing of the car so that it's in space, and then do your figure in space from there. Here, we're gonna let this panel dry a little bit before we do the one above it. Otherwise, we'll smudge it, and then I'll be even more frustrated with it. Yeah, doing it's tough translating from going from reference photo to image to drawing. I actually find it tougher than if, like, let's say what I prefer to do rather than staying to the reference image, I'll draw it and using it just looking at the image, but not copying the angle at all. So I'm constructing it using that Loomis method from scratch, and then I'll try to get the proportions and the details right from the photo. So like it's a way of using the photo without like falling too far down that rabbit hole. Yeah, throw the horizon line in there and try to find your ground floor grid by doing your vanishing points. It really does help. Like mapping, getting to know the photo better will only help. Like if you're trying to really merge, like you're trying to pull more than just like, oh, what are the proportions or what does the front grill look like, you know? Because that's generally how I use those types of images, unless, like I said, there are jobs where I've been required to trace over stuff because it would have taken an insurmountable amount of time to um, draw some of those things exacting to the level of exact detail that they required. Because like I know guys that worked on like the Star Wars comics and stuff, and like they can't just get it almost right. They were required to get it exactly right, and they're given 3D models of like these are the interiors, this is the ship you're going to be using, you know. So they gave them the resources to do it. So like it makes sense. But yeah, this is our big musical number. I'll be interested to see what comic fans think because like there's plenty of fight scenes and stuff, but like I don't know. We'll see. It's one of those things where I don't know how people will react to it because I've never put one in a comic before. I've read a comic that has one. The beautiful Howard Chaykin solo comic used music to wondrous effects. If you're ever looking at like a good merger of music and comics, and Alex Toth did a story about just a person dancing that was set to music, and that was a phenomenal graphical, just landmark thing. Pat says one of his favorite books is his collection's anthology by Sean Murphy in 13 or 14, Cafe Racer about motorcycle culture in Japan, several creators. Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, I mean, I one of the things you actually learn as an illustrator is how to trace. Like people talk about, you just trace over it, but you don't just trace over it. You have to make it look like it fits in the drawing too. I mean, one of the greatest people who artists and well-known people who did that was Drew Struzan. He did all the famous movie posters of Indiana Jones and um, the Goonies, Star Wars. Drew Struzan, Back to the Future, The Thing, like in so many of his best known posters is they have traced elements in them, and it could be a face, it could be hands, it could be all sorts of things. So the level of detail that certain jobs require, I can promise you that no ordinary artist can attain them. I can promise you. I seem to recall a certain friend of mine who had to draw the interior of the Millennium Falcon for a comic book, and the switches on the wall had to be perfect. And they weren't even like using the switches, they were just in the background. Placement, everything had to be perfect. Which I found a little funny based on like how crazy weird the original Star Wars comics were for Marvel. Like they made up characters, they made up locations, they were all over the place. Hey, Dr. Mass, good to see you. Have a good night, Daniel. Yep, we've got this page and one more to go for line art, and then I've got my team ready for colors for doing the flats. I'll get it lettered. We've got it lined up to go. We're going to keep going and keep going until it's done. You know. I would be curious to know, yeah, because the folks that I know that worked on the Star Wars stuff, like they were really really specific about how everything had to look. Sometimes they do change that from artist to artist. Like I recall when I did my Batman Ninja Turtles cover, they told me that it had to be a combination of the cartoon and Bruce Timm style. And I talked to a bunch of other artists that did variants for that book, and only one other got the same direction I did, to where it's like, no, you need to follow these two style guides. I was like, okay. So oh, interesting. Comics with a soundtrack. I almost started watching that documentary series, Patrick. Is it good? I think we caught like part of an episode and then we had to like go out or something. I considered going back and watching it. 4 hours, but worth the time. All right, yeah, I'll add it to one of my watch lists. I'm guessing it's on demand or one of those services. Robert Geronimo just did a vinyl for his series Blood Realm. Yeah, my buddy Ben Goldsmith did a an album for his book Seance Room, and he did a vinyl. So let's see, we've got some smudges from when this thing was upside down. It's gonna need some digital cleanup when we scan this thing. But you get double page spreads are very unwieldy when you have to work on the go. I try to work whenever I get even 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. I take out the pages and I just keep working. I'm gonna come in here and clean this up a little bit. Actually, the information's there. I'm gonna go and try to pull some of it out. Hey, Jonathan, good to see you. You missed out. I can show you the little sketch cover we finished off the background for earlier. Little Thunderstrike, some more 90s comics. Goes with our Warlock cover, I guess, that I still got to get over to you. Got to hand that off to you. We've talked about my enjoyment of Thunderstrike in the past. It's one of those random characters that got a big push. Yeah, well, and Eric's story was limited. Like, he had to fill in for Thor on his main series. Then he got like 24 issues of his own series that had a beginning, middle, and end. Had a great ending. And, they did a what if issue a few years later. Ron Friends actually just posted an interesting tidbit that Thunderstrike actually showed up in a Beavis and Butthead comic, which I had no idea, which I've never seen. And you're absolutely right to point out that there is good stuff from the '90s. Like there are good comics to be found in there. There was always the cliche that like, oh, all the '90s comics are bad. That's absolutely untrue. I've never seen it. I've actually never seen the book. I guess he's on like one page. He randomly shows up in it. We know how comic fans enjoy their minutia trivia. Oh, you got a Ron Friend sketch of Thunderstrike. Nice, nice, very cool. I would love to see that. If you ever post it, or DM it to me or something, that would be cool to see. I love Ron's work. Uh, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's one of those little pocket stories where like the mystery of the Blood Strike was like it's Blood Strike is a goofy name, but I always talk about Eric as Thor. The old comics was like God's view of man, like God's view of Earth, and all these things. A God, um, you know, and I always found the view of a man's view of the heavens to be more interesting. Just me personally, from a storytelling standpoint, I always thought, Eric was the everyman Avenger. There was very little that was spectacular about him, and um, he gets this opportunity, and he's gone through a divorce, his stuff with his wife, his kid. He's dealing with like regular issues, and these new powers and all these people that he's meeting, and that like brief dalliance with Sif that lasted for like 6 panels, and then she went back to being with Thor. I like those comics. And I like Spider Girl. I thought those were, some of Tom DeFalco. You mix that in with like some of the Marvel team up, or Marvel 2-in-1 trilogy of The Thing, and Sandman with annual number 7, and the 2 issues with him and Sandman meeting up and chatting. Like, I think those are like some of his best writing. Marvel Team Up Annual 7 is like in my top 10 single issues. Um, I actually keep it right by my desk. It's over here somewhere. Cloak and Dagger. At least I thought I did. She-Hulk, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, X-Men, X-Men. Yeah, Marvel 2-in-1. Annual number 7. Highly recommend this if anybody's never read it. I got mine signed by the artist at Fan Expo in Cleveland a number of years ago when I was there as a guest. But yeah, this is a great single issue if you've never read it. Highly recommended. And it's just the resilience of the Thing. And it's pure superhero trope, cheesy goodness. I don't make any apologies for how, funny superheroes can be. If you're looking for, a dark and gritty, badass, never in full daylight story. That's not it, but it is poignant and has very good characterization, and you learn a lot about the strong guys of the Marvel universe. So, highly recommended. Yeah, no, it's a great issue. And then the follow up where he's in the hospital and all the other Marvel heroes are fighting, and the Sandman comes to see him. Just so good. And look, I hope with the new Fantastic Four we get a version of the character that's like that, where he is, you know, a heartfelt, well-rounded character, and not just like a big guy smash things. Yeah, I find that in movies that happens very often. Like if you have a big muscle character, they have to like just be the guy who punches stuff. Like one of my favorite characters is Colossus, and it took until like the Deadpool movies that we got a guy that even resembled that character that I liked. You know, when he showed up in the other X-Men movies, he was basically just like background, you know. He'd stand there and be shiny. Hey Eli, good to see you. And we're just working away on our page here. This is the duet scene with Morena and the eel, while the our pals Jana War and Colonel Feathers are breaking into the vault. It's a heist superimposed on a musical number, so I thought we'd give that a try in graphical visual story narrative and see what we can do. I did it with two-page spreads, two of them that when you pull them out of the book, they will interlock and fit as one poster as well. So I spent a long time designing these pages. So hopefully when we color them, I don't mess them up. Not that people notice or remember it because it's been so long now, but Jana War's hair is actually two-toned. So it's actually on the outside, it's purple, and on the underside, it's bright orange. So it creates this great visual of movement, and it's an easy way to show even more depth than what her hair would otherwise have. All right, so where's my notebook? I'll try to do this in a way that looks okay. Not always good at picking out what needs to go in my silhouettes, so I end up drawing everything and then going back in and chipping away at it with where I think things need to go. Sorry, it's a funky angle because I have to be at a in order to do this. Sometimes it's easier for me to do this type of work with a brush just because I treat it more like painting. Need a little more shadow in the hair here. We have to shade the face, which is always tricky. Back. Then we get our ruler. And there's going to be tons and tons of like the words for the song. Hey, thanks, Mask. I'll see you. Thanks for coming in and hanging out. I lost my train of thought. Do need to make a pencil mark. I wrote the lyrics, and it's set to a very famous tune. And I did reach out to a couple of musicians before the Kickstarter to see if they would do it, but I couldn't get a price like that I could afford. So, and I don't want to like just have one of my buddies who would do it without. I want to pay the appropriate amount for such a thing. You know, I don't want to. Okay, just do it for free. Because I don't appreciate when people do that to me. So maybe if there's a comic fan that can play guitar and can play 50s studio tunes, it's like, hey, I'll trade it for some artwork. I would feel okay about that. I would love for the song to exist. Maybe Ghost Tiger will cover it. I don't know. I think that would be. I don't know if Ben and I are that tight. He says he's going to read the book, so he did read the issue 0 I did when we were in Baltimore, which I was surprised, and he came over and we chatted about it. So I think he was just tired. He'll get tired of me bothering him. All right, well, let's see if we can clean this up a bit, because again, like we had so many pencil marks on here. See, and here's one question where I'm doing this. Like, she wears white gloves, So I don't know. I usually leave objects that are completely white without shadows, even in dark rooms. I don't know. It's just a cool look. I always thought. I don't even know what time it is. It's after 9. Maybe when we finish this panel, we'll do a recap and then we'll call it a night. We'll finish this one. We got a little ways to go on this panel. So. This is the ship that's behind them that I'm going to darken in completely. So we've got to just black it out. Yeah, I would really just need somebody who could record playing the song "Dream Lover" on their guitar and just sing the goofy lyrics that I wrote for this heist. See, we don't have to worry about line thickness because we were going to fill that in. Fill this in. Oh, I missed a couple of comments. I'm sorry. Dr. Mass said Hollywood often misses the mark. Yeah, I mean, I still think that there is a deep fear of the source material by the part of these movie makers. Like, I don't think that ever really went away. I think that there's movement has been made on those. I credit movies like Guardians of the Galaxy and like these, even though that wasn't really like the Guardians of the Galaxies, it was such like a departure from the rigid, like we can only do Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man movies that make money. Yeah, I've never produced anything music-wise, so that's the other problem. Like, I don't know anything. I would need to also pay an expert to be able to do that. I'm just not. That's one thing that I never tried to self-teach. I can do the audio mixing to a degree because I know a ton about. I'm even learning more all the time about video production and video editing and cleaning up audio or cleaning up video. Spent a lot of time doing that. I don't know. I feel like the hands with the white gloves don't work in this shot. I think we need the stronger silhouette. So we're going to break with our usual conventions and see how it looks. Yeah. Gotta wait for this to dry a little bit. yeah, we'll just we'll wrap it up there, and I'll show off the 2-page spread as it stands. Here's the left side that we have so far. And I redid this panel, and I actually pasted a new one over the top of the one we had before. If you want to see the old one, you'll have to go back to the old stream. I just wasn't happy with it. Let me see how much we can zoom out. That's about as much as we can zoom out. You can see here's the 2 pages where they connect. Look at that. Oh, just an ink blob. That's okay. Yeah, I'll have this done definitely this week, and then we'll get to work on the other half. The last page. So like after this, it's the last page, which after having a celebratory beer, we'll get scanning and we'll get these pages rolling. And I can't wait to get it lettered. Like that's gonna feel so good. But yeah, and then here's the sketch cover one more time. And yeah, thanks everybody for coming tonight. I hope you all have a good week and a lovely weekend. And stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you all. Good night.